From the News Channel 5 Network and AARP, this is AARP Connected.
It's a great day to be connected. I'm your host, Mia McNeil, and welcome to AARP Connected. I'm glad you've tuned in. We've got a great show in store for you. If you've joined us before, welcome back. And if you're new to AARP Connected, we're excited to have you on board as we explore important issues that empower you to choose how you live as you age. Today, we'll discuss something that impacts all of us, voting in the 2024 election. We'll also talk about some of the key issues affecting voters age 50 and older. We've got a special guest to give us all of those details. But before we get into that conversation, we like to kick things off with a segment we call Things You Need to Know.
In a competitive housing market, there's often pressure to act quickly when you find the perfect property, and scammers are waiting in the wings to pounce. Here are 3 real estate scams to look out for. Wire fraud happens when a scammer poses as your real estate agent or a settlement company and has you wire the closing costs to the wrong account. Before wiring any money, confirm the amount needed, account information, and routing number with your real estate company. A rental scam is when someone lists a house or apartment for rent that doesn't exist or isn't theirs. Before you send a deposit to secure a piece of real estate, visit the location. When it comes to foreclosures, scammers want in on the action. This happens when they target homeowners at risk of losing their homes. They promise to help stop a foreclosure or modify a loan in exchange for an upfront fee. But in the end, they take the money and run. Never pay upfront fees and be skeptical of someone who pressures you to act immediately. For more tips, go to aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork.
Meditation is known to help you relax, but did you know it can also improve overall health? Here are 3 surprising benefits of meditation. Daily meditation has been linked to lower heart rate and blood pressure, which may lower your risk for heart disease. Meditation has been known to improve sleep. By establishing a daily practice, you can decrease brain activity, resulting in calming thoughts and emotions. Research shows that this can prep your body for a more restful night's sleep. Meditation can help boost your body's immune system and help calm the body's reaction to being overstressed. This can help reduce inflammation and ease symptoms of arthritis, among other things. Just remember, meditation can't fix all problems. Check with your doctor to see how it fits with your health plan. For more health tips, go to aarp.org/health.
Artificial intelligence, known as AI, is the latest technology craze, and by now you've probably heard about all the good and bad things it can do. A recent study funded and conducted by NORC at the University of Chicago and AARP Research revealed curiosity and concern across all age groups, including older adults. Among 50-plus workers, 42% say that they are knowledgeable, although the vast majority describe their use as not too much or not at all. The primary threat identified by a majority of older adults pertains to being replaced by AI. The study also found most 50-plus workers use AI for data analysis. How do you feel about AI in the workplace? Head over to the AARP Tennessee Facebook page and let us know. Well, we all know 2024 is a big election year. It's practically impossible to avoid media coverage of it. In November, voters across the country will elect officials in local, state, congressional, and of course, the next President of the United States. We're excited to have our own subject matter expert on the show today, AARP Senior Vice President of Campaigns, John Hishta. John is a nationally recognized political consultant and strategist with more than 30 years advising a variety of political candidates, elected officials, national committees, business groups, and advocacy organizations. John came to AARP in May 2011 and leads the department tasked with managing and executing successful issue campaigns at the state and national level. Thanks for being here with us, John.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. So let's jump right in. So as I mentioned earlier, you are a part of the executive leadership team at AARP, specifically in the area of campaigns. Would you share with our viewers, frankly, what that means and how your role impacts lives here in Tennessee?
Sure. So we are essentially the in-house public affairs team for AARP, and what we do is try to help and engage members of AARP 50 plus and other voters to put public pressure on elected officials, both positively and in some cases negatively, when we want to try to advance issues, whether it's on the state or national level. So for instance, if you're working with the state legislature here in Tennessee and there's a need to create some grassroots support for an issue, or maybe do some television advertisements or things of that nature, that's where we come into play with our team to work in conjunction with the AARP Tennessee team to achieve victory with those issues.
Now, you've not always been with AARP. I would love to know how you actually got here.
So I have a very eclectic career. I have spent time as a chief of staff on Capitol Hill, have been a lobbyist, have run national campaigns, have run political committees. However, when I came to AARP, I had some personal issues that made me reflect on the way forward. Notably, I had parents who subsequently passed away, but both who suffered from some issues of dementia and other things, and I was their caregiver for the better part of 5 or 6 years. And so when the opportunity arose to come to work for a place like AARP, it was just a natural fit. And I've stayed for 13 years and loved every minute of it.
Interesting. So AARP says that it is a nonpartisan organization, but frankly, what does that mean? What do we do and what do we not do?
Well, first of all, what we do is we focus on the issues that the 50 plus community cares about. And so we want to make sure that we take all comers in terms of help on both sides of the aisle. And so as long as we do that and we focus on the issues and the solutions that matter, we stay in the nonpartisan space. What we don't do, we don't endorse candidates, we don't give money to candidates, we don't support one side or the aisle. And so what we try to do, particularly as it relates to issues that we're advancing, is work both sides of the aisle in order to make sure that we advance the cause of the 50 plus.
Well, I can already tell this is going to be a great discussion. So we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, John's going to talk a little bit about why the 50 plus voting block is so important. Come on back. Welcome back to AARP Connected. We're talking with AARP Senior Vice President of Campaigns, John Hishta, about the 2024 election and beyond. Okay, so we know that the 50 plus block of voters, both here in Tennessee and around the country, they play a large role, but how does that play into AARP's campaigns work?
They're the most engaged constituents in the country. For instance, the 50 plus voting population votes more than any other age voting block in the country year after year after year. The best way to put it in perspective is they vote at presidential election year levels during off-year elections. Wow. And so 50 plus voters are the most engaged in the country when it comes to electing their elected officials. And so that gives us the ability to go into office holders, whether they're on the local, state, or national level, and say, this is the most important constituency in terms of the issues that they face. And it gives us the ability to say they have the power to, frankly, help make or break you when it comes to holding elective office.
That's amazing. So what are some other things you do to empower this block of 50-plus voters?
We reach out and we engage our membership first and foremost, and beyond that to other members of the 50-plus community who are not AARP members, and we ask them to get engaged in issues they care about. And we do that through a variety of means. We either do it through online activities on things like Facebook or Instagram, or we email people and we engage in teletown halls and good old-fashioned grassroots recruiting. And what you find is once you get somebody involved in an issue, they're apt to stay involved over the long term. And so we're able to engage thousands and thousands of AARP members, not just around the country, but here in Tennessee, to have an impact on the issues that we care most about.
So let's pivot for a second. We know that there are 48 million caregivers in the country, and they are the backbone of our long-term care system, and we have quite a few of them in Tennessee. How is AARP working to help them?
The best way I can describe it is we are trying to take a very personal issue that affects people on a day-to-day basis and elevate it into the public policy space. And so first and foremost, we're trying to tell a lot of office holders that this is something that you should try to address in the public policy space. And we're bringing to them stories of folks who live this day in and day out. The average caregiver, for instance, spends $7,000 a year out of pocket to take care of their loved ones. There are all sorts of issues associated with caregiving that public policy holders really need to start looking at in order to help this group of individuals around the country. And the other thing we're trying to do is build this constituency out so that people feel like they have a home to go to and they understand that they're not in this alone, because a lot of times too many people think, well, this is just something I'm doing on my own, and I don't realize that there are folks throughout the community who are in the same boat. And so the more we can bring people together and the more we can have conversations around some of the issues that directly affect caregivers, the greater chances we have, not just on the federal level, but also on the state and local level, to bringing the necessary resources and support to caregivers as they go through their journey.
Well, let's stay right there for a minute. What would you tell our viewers who want to support this effort on raising the attention to caregiving?
First and foremost, I would say go to our website and look at the pages that have to do with caregivers. Second, I would go to AARP Tennessee's website, and if you're so moved, volunteer and engage with staff and other volunteers on the issue, because the more people we can get engaged who are willing to tell their stories and speak to office holders, the more successful we'll be.
So let's shift gears on a small topic we call Social Security. What's the latest update on the program's viability?
So every year the Social Security trustees come out with a viability report, and this year it will come out sometime in the next several weeks. Basically, the program is healthy and can fully fund benefits through around 2034. If no action is taken at that point in the game prior to that year by Congress, then generally speaking, beneficiaries will lose about 20% of their income from Social Security. And so that is the date by which the Congress really needs to address the issue and come up with solutions for long-term solvency.
So we hear a lot about the threats to cut Social Security. What is AARP doing about that?
Well, first and foremost, what we're doing is engaging the public to tell elected officials in Congress and the Senate and whoever the new president is, you really need to engage in this debate have a bipartisan conversation, do it in the public so that everybody knows what's coming down the pike. That hasn't happened right now. Everybody is avoiding the issue. There is no real conversation around the issue of Social Security by our elected officials in Washington, D.C. And so what we want to do is continue to engage our members and others to really bring both parties together to have a long-term conversation on the solvency of the issue.
So I think when we come back, I want to talk more about what we're doing with Social Security. So come on back and listen to what we're talking about over here. Welcome back to AARP Connected. We have a few minutes left with our guest, John Hishta of AARP, the Senior Vice President of Campaigns and Election and Critical Advocacy Issues. Okay, John, so we talked a little bit about Social Security before the break. How can our viewers help with the effort in talking about Social Security?
First and foremost, pay attention to what your local candidates for Congress and the United States Senate are saying about the issue. And then when they get elected, if they're fortunate enough to serve in the Congress or the Senate, pay attention to what they say about Social Security and its long-term solvency. Second, contact the AARP Tennessee office and volunteer and get engaged and be willing to talk to members of Congress where you live and advocate for the long-term viability of the program. That would be the two main things I would suggest.
So in your role, you are close to a ton of polling information. What can you tell us about the trends that you're seeing in the key issues heading into this election, general election in November?
First and foremost, I think people continue to be worried about the economy and the long-term effects of things like inflation and things of that nature. For our voters, they care deeply about Social Security. They care deeply about Medicare. Things like prescription drug costs come into play. That affects a lot of folks around the state and around the country on a regular basis. And so anything candidates are doing to protect Social Security and Medicare and trying to bring down the cost of goods, whether it be groceries or prescription drugs or things of that nature, is something that we continue to see in all the polls that we do. It's going to be a very tight election for president, and I don't think you'll see much of a change in terms of how tight it will be up to Election Day.
Yeah, and I would imagine because of the nature of this election, you know, people are going to be inundated with a lot of information, and we hear about election integrity coming up a lot. What kind of policies or legislation, red flags, should we keep an eye out on with the regard of ensuring a free and fair election?
I think first and foremost, making sure that voters have access to the polls, however they want to vote, whether it's on Election Day through early voting, in person or through mail. Those are the most important things that we can continue to ensure. And so that's the reason why we've launched, for instance, our voter engagement efforts around when, where, and how to vote, to make sure that voters really know the laws specifically for the state that they're voting in, because a lot of these states have changed their voting regulations and rules over the past several years, and I'm not sure people realize that we're not a nationwide system of voters. We are voters on a state-by-state basis, and so state laws change, and we need to make sure that not just AARP members, but everybody is aware of what that means for them as they go into the voting booth.
So tell us just a little bit about some of the tools and resources that are available for people who want to know more about the election going into November.
So in our online AARP bulletin, we have state pages where we talk about the local elections, the process of voting, and we'll also have interviews with both presidential candidates about the issues of importance to the 50 plus for those two folks who want to read about their interviews, which will be coming down the pike this fall as well.
Fantastic. One other thing. So they say that all politics is local. What can folks do on a local end in their small town in Tennessee to be helpful with advocacy efforts with their local officials?
Engage, first and foremost. I always say that the most important officials that affect your life mainly on a day-to-day basis are the local officials, those closest to you. So I know AARP Tennessee gets very active in localities around the state, and if you want to get more engaged, I would reach out to the state office and partner with them to help on issues of importance, whether it's housing or utility work or things like that that are really important on a day-to-day basis.
John, you sound like an expert. You ever thought about running for a local office?
I don't have the patience. And I applaud those folks who do.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been fantastic. And we're looking forward to seeing the outcome of the November general election. Well, listen, if you'd like to connect with AARP, we've got some fun community events coming up. We've got several events coming up in September. On the 15th, we're sponsoring a POW MIA Day of Remembrance in Knoxville. Then our popular virtual cooking class returns on September 19th. And on that same day, we're co-hosting a Music for Seniors concert in Knoxville. And a couple days later, you can attend our Disaster Preparedness Conference in Nashville. Register and find out more at aarp.org/TN. Stay in the know on all the latest AARP is doing in Tennessee. Connect with us on any of these popular social media sites. And if you enjoy podcasts, we will have a podcast version of each episode available wherever you download your favorite podcast content. Just hit subscribe and get notifications when new episodes are available. Well, that's all the time we have today. I hope you found our discussion informative and valuable. I'm Mia McNeil, and thanks for being connected.